Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Microphone. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, can you hear my mic all right? You can now, it's turned on. Hey, I remember the last time I came to Australia. Well, the first time, actually. I've been 3 times. And I started off north of Brisbane in the back of this old banger of a car, went down through Brisbane, down to Newcastle and Sydney and Adelaide, sitting like this, mile after mile in the back of this sodding car, talking to next to no bugger. It were great. But it's amazing if you keep going because you believe what you're doing is right, how the waters open and things change, as long as you don't give up. When you give up, that's when it all stops and nothing can manifest from it. But when you keep going, if what you're saying has any validity, it will eventually be shown to be so. And all that effort, which appeared to be a waste of time and a waste of effort, in the end starts leading somewhere. And my God, it's leading somewhere now as humanity starts to wake up increasingly in vaster and vaster numbers to remember the full magnitude of who we are. I'd like to thank Adam and all the team for putting this event on so magnificently. And I just ask one thing of you. I want no discord today. Well, actually, you can have discord, just don't blame me for it, okay? Because I'll tell you for why. A few days ago, I turned up at immigration at Melbourne Airport. 20-hour flight, knackered, and I'm standing there and in the line, and I go over with my passport, and it was amazing because she stamped it immediately, and I thought, that was quick, no questions. And I'm waiting for it to come back, and she turned around and gave it to some guy who was waiting behind. Would you go with this gentleman, sir? I've heard those words before, many times. And so I followed this fella. They were very nice, very courteous. And he takes me into these back rooms and hands me over to this lady, who takes me into this kind of bright white room, like an Agent Smith type room. And she puts this document in front of me that I have to sign to say that I've read it. And it said a number of things, but this is the key thing. Section 501 of the Migration Act 1958, the Act, provides a discretionary power to refuse to grant or to cancel a visa if a non-citizen does not meet the requirements of the character test. Moi? A non-citizen will not meet the requirements of the character test if, among other things, there is a significant risk that they will vilify, incite discord in, or represent a danger to the Australian community or segment of the Australian community. I think it's a good idea. I think we ought to expand it. I think we ought to have a character test for government ministers and officials. Reckon? I think so. I think so. Because if we did, Canberra would be a bloody ghost town, wouldn't it? And Westminster and Washington and all of them. Character test. Discord. Definition of discord. Lack of agreement among persons, groups or things. Oh, call the bloody army out. Mustn't incite that. Tension or strife resulting from a lack of agreement, dissension. Well, that shut Parliament down for a sodding start, isn't it? A confused or harsh sound or mingling of sounds, Parliament again. There you go. And finally, inharmonious combination of simultaneously sounded tones, a dissonance. So if anyone's got a trumpet, play it in tune, or I'm in the crap here, okay? With the government. I don't know. And of course, like all this legislation, terrorist legislation, which doesn't define terrorist, this can be defined by the minister who makes the decision according to this document in any way they bloody like. But, as you know, I am someone who is known to bow to authority and bow the head, so I'd like to say that I take the warning extremely seriously, okay? I take the document extremely seriously, and I've thought of nothing else. I shall watch every word I say today. You got a bloody laugh, it's so daft. And I guess there will be someone in the audience who's come to monitor what I say, otherwise there's no point in signing the document. And I'd just like to welcome them, wherever they are. And I really do hope that by the end of the day, they will have found it within themselves to get a life. And then their children and grandchildren might be proud of them, instead of asking them, Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing when this state came in that now controls every area of my life? Oh, I was helping to do it, dear. Yeah, okay. My God, do we need this or what? The whole theme of today is to free our minds. It actually is more than that, as I'll come to. Free our minds from the programming that turns infinite consciousness, having an experience, into a four-legged animal from which we get wool, that have lost the ability to decide perception and reality for themselves and have to have it decided for them. Without that, the few couldn't control the many. With it, it's a piece of cake. This is Wilhelm Reich setting the tone for the day, an inventor and researcher and psychologist. He said this: "Am I a spaceman? Do I belong to a new race on Earth bred by men from outer space in embraces with Earth women? I request my right and privilege to have such thoughts and ask such questions without being threatened to be jailed by any administrative agency of society. In the face of a rigid, doctrinaire, self-appointed, ready-to-kill hierarchy of scientific censorship, it appears foolish to publish such thoughts. Anyone malignant enough could do anything with them. Still, the right to be wrong has to be maintained. Massive basic human right, the right to be wrong. We should not fear to enter a forest because there are wildcats around in the trees. We should not yield our right to well-controlled speculation. It is certain questions entailed in such speculation which administrators of established knowledge fear. But in entering the cosmic age, we should certainly insist on the right to ask new, even silly questions without being molested. And I demand that right for myself, and no men in dark suits or uniforms are going to deny me that, for I am consciousness, not some clone of some idiotic, brain-dead system that seeks to tell me who I am, and what I can and cannot do with my own mind." So, when we open our minds, or go beyond that even, then we start to see reality in a different way. This is a wonderful quote. "You were born an original, don't die a copy." So many people do that. They go through their lives thinking the norm in society is the only possible perception of reality. And because the majority appear to believe it, therefore, by definition, it must be true. Truth does not change because it is or is not believed by the majority of the people. As Gandhi said, even if you are in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. Or as this proverb says, the multitude is always wrong. And invariably, when you look through what we call history, it turns out that way. It is the people who have challenged that have moved us forward in terms of our understanding of who we are and the nature of the world we live in. Few centuries ago, the majority believed. Why? Because those people perceived to be all-knowing, the scientists and religious people of the day, said the earth was flat, and if you went too far, you'd fall off the edge. And people were jailed and vilified for saying, actually, it's a sphere. And then when the evidence becomes overwhelming that the earth is actually a sphere, then that becomes the new norm, and now anyone who says that it's flat is now ridiculed for believing that. The difference is, what is the norm accepted in society at any one time? And that's the truth that people follow. We live in a world of conflict and war and famine, where people, a few people, control and hijack the wealth at the expense of the vast majority. We live in a world which, take a step back, deep breath, look at it again, is utterly bloody insane. And we're asked to believe, and so many people do, that we are somehow at the cutting edge of human evolution. We're nowhere near the edge of what is possible and what is there to be known. But the norms are very powerful, especially when, from cradle to grave, we are constantly manipulated and confused with contradictory information, and when we're pressured to believe it, otherwise we'll get ridiculed or condemned for being different. And we are in a situation, a world brilliantly described by this man, Michael Elner. Just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom, the major media destroys information, and religions destroy spirituality. That's where we are. So we live in an upside-down world. Why? That's what I asked 20 years ago. And the answers are amazing when you start to take back the camouflage that's put before us. All the way through our lives, we are being given instructions, we're being given directions, and basically the world has been turned into a maze of confusion. And it's done to keep us from the simple truths, because complexity is there to stop us finding those simple truths. But when you connect the dots between apparently unconnected people, situations, organizations, world events, and you start to see how they fit together, suddenly this bewildering, confusing world starts to take on a much clearer dimension. Because only by connecting the dots over, as you'll see today, a vast range of subjects and situations and people, can you start to see why the world is upside down, why it is as it is. And crucially, behind that complexity, those smoke screens of complexity, why behind that is an amazing revelation of who we are and the nature of life. When we start to realize that far from being Ethel Jones or Billy Smith, we are all that is, has been, and ever will be. That is the difference between who we are and who we are manipulated to believe we are. And when you connect those dots more and more, And it's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. It is putting a jigsaw puzzle together. When I first started doing it, what I was looking for was those straight bits that make up the frame. And in terms of what I'm doing, that was understanding the structure through which a few can control the many. And then as you keep putting more, at the start, it's like, where the bloody hell does this go? What's this? Oh, my God, it's so confusing. The more you put the pieces together and the picture appears, the quicker you can put the pieces in, because you start to see what the game is. And the elephant in the living room is that there are two streams of reality going on together. One is a secret agenda to create a global fascist centralized dictatorship to dictate to and control on every level every man, woman, and child on the planet. Going alongside that is what I call the movie. That's the version of the world that we are given through the mainstream media, through what we call education. And that is to explain away the changes going on, which are actually the agenda coming in a coordinated way, but the movie's there to explain them away in an uncoordinated fashion so we don't see where it's really going. Those days for so many people are now over because we can see where it's going, where it wants to go. And key to everything, and that's what I'm really going to concentrate on in the first half, or first third, 3 sections today. The key to everything else in this global conspiracy is to put humanity into a false identity, a false belief in who we are. It has to get us to see ourselves in terms of little me, powerlessness. What can I do? I'm just Joe Public. And I'm just Ethel Jones or Charlie Smith. That's who I am. I'm the reflection in the mirror. That's me. I have no power. When in fact, we are infinite consciousness having an experience as Charlie Smith or Ethel Jones. But what the manipulation has to do to put us in the box of mass control is to persuade us that we are the experience. And they've done it brilliantly, so far. And when we accept that, this is the state that we're put in energetically, what I call the eggshell. Instead of accessing the infinity of knowledge, understanding, awareness, love, all-knowing, that it is possible to access, because that's who we are, we close down. And what do we say? We close our minds. We close our minds and we operate on a fraction of who we are. Compared with the infinity of who we are, we close in on a fraction that is nothing less than the village idiot by comparison. And only by putting us in this state of a consciousness, if you can call it that, state of mind, more accurate, can the few control the many on the scale that they have and do. You know, I have this thing, I just mentioned it a few minutes ago, when you go, we get so close to things, and therefore they become so normal that we never question them. Take a deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. Look at life. Someone said to me the other day, in fact, they've said to me many times over the years, similar things, what's life all about? I mean, you're born, and then you grow, you go to school, then you go to college and they teach things and stuff, and then you get a job. Most of the time it's a job you don't like. gives you no satisfaction, but you do it because you have to do it because you have to earn money to live and survive. And then you get older and you kind of had children and they go the same thing. And then you get even older and then your body starts to go and you start getting pains and it's more difficult and then you've got lots of health problems, stuff like that. And then you die. You know. And if you've pleased some guy with a beard or whatever, then you go to a nice place when you die, and if you haven't, and you look at it, and people don't live overwhelmingly, they exist. They stay alive between point A and point Z. And this is life. I think we can do better than that. The reason that's what life has become is because we have become people who live not a life, but a program. A computer program that follows the program through what we call life. And instead of living life, we let life live us, the program live us. And the program is working all the time to keep us in a hypnotic state, because that's, as I'll come to, is basically where most people are at, in a hypnotic state. And it's incessant. Tick, tock, you are feeling sleepy. You have no power. You must serve the system. It's a mind game. It has to be a mind game because there's not enough manipulators to physically control the population, so they have to do it through mind, through perception. And through that, by the way, get the population to police each other. They put us in prisons of the mind, where we instead of expanding out to all possibility, we have these belief systems, which are nothing more than programs, computer programs, religion, politics, race, self-identity. We are all that is, has ever been, will ever be, and yet once you take on a religion, that goes zoom. Oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I follow Judaism, and I'm Hindu. Boom! Rules, regulations. You can't say that. You're not a Hindu if you say that. You're not a Christian if you say that. Oh, sorry, oh. And then there's politics. Oh, you're not a Republican, are you? You're not a Republican if you say that. You're not a Democrat. You're not this. You're not that. Oh. Oh, I'm a black person. I'm a Jewish person. I'm an Arab person. I'm a middle-class Englishman. That's who I am. It's my race. Boom. What is identifying? Not, experiencing being in a race and enjoying it and all that stuff. I like being an Australian and all that stuff. No problem with that. As long as you realize it's an experience. Once you identify with being the race, you are identifying with being the body, which means you're identifying with being Charlie Smith and Ethel Jones. Gotcha! Which brings us to self-identity, which is the key one. Stop them understanding who they really are, because then we're right up the Swanee. As Mark Twain said, in religion and politics, people's beliefs and convictions are in almost every case gotten at second hand, and without examination from authorities who have not themselves examined the questions at issue, but have taken them at second hand from other non-examiners whose opinions about them were not worth a brass farthing. That's how belief systems come about. The earth's not round, you're mad. By the way, if there are people here, I'm sure there must be, who've never heard my stuff before, all the very best. Because we're going to go into some very strange places before this day is out. He's just said the Queen's a lizard. He couldn't have done. He couldn't have said that. He did. He did. Anyway, this is a great way that we're held in belief systems. Cognitive dissonance. I love this one. It's really, really important. Lying to yourself. Cognitive dissonance, for people who haven't come across it, is a state of anxiety. I've seen people in it. State of anxiety when their belief system and their experience, or what they're hearing in terms of information, are at odds. Now, cognitive dissonance is a very good thing, because when you go into this anxiety state, you can look at the information and look at the experience, realize there's more to know about your belief system, and you move on. But what most people do is the belief system's immovable, not to be touched. So what they then do is try to find ways to explain away the experience or the new information, so the belief system remains intact. And it's from cognitive dissonance that we get these incredible mind contradictions. For instance, we're going to war to fight for peace. Cognitive dissonance, classic. And George Orwell talked in his book 1984 about doublethink, which again is a form of cognitive dissonance to square the circle. Doublethink means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting both of them. Fighting for peace. And that's where this comes from. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And only by persuading us to take on these contradictions and accept them as real can the few control the many. And the idea, and my goodness me, they've got so many people in this world in this state, the idea is to keep us in a total and constant state of confusion. Thinking the world is sane when it's utterly crazy. Like doctors destroying health, when you realize what the game is, when you've connected enough dots, that is not a contradiction at all anymore. It's only a contradiction when you don't know what the game is. Doctors destroy health because it's about wealth, not health. Pharmaceutical companies are not there to bring health to the population. They're there to scam them on one level for vast amounts of money. They're not interested in curing people of cancer. They're making too much money treating the symptoms in this assisted suicide we call chemotherapy. And also to so drug the population in various and many ways that, again, our ability to think straight and sharply is destroyed. This guy, William Osler, Canadian physician, he said one of the first duties of the physician is to educate the masses not to take medicine. I like him. I like him. I don't know why he said it, but it's true. Lawyers destroy justice. Of course they do. Because if we live in a just and fair society in which everyone is treated the same, the few do not have the privileges through law to stitch up the population and the system in general. So, of course, lawyers are there to destroy justice. Universities destroy knowledge. Again, of course. The last thing you want, if you're the few and you want to control the many, is a sharp-thinking, intelligent, aware population. Worst bloody nightmare. So right the way through, from what we call the education system, people are not educated, they are indoctrinated with a version of life and reality and the world that suits the system to keep the few in servitude. And I feel for young people today because they are being bombarded, especially at this time of awakening, and that's no coincidence either. They're being bombarded on multi-levels to keep them asleep and to keep them from opening their minds to see the full magnitude of who they are. And all around the world, education is celebrated. Oh, yes, we're bringing education to the third world. If only. Just more indoctrination into the same global system that we're all supposed to worship. Governments destroy freedom. This is the great one. If people are new to this, this is the first big step. Governments are not there to serve the people. Governments are there to serve those that control the governments and enslave the people. That's what they're there for. Once we realize that, then a lot of dots start to connect. Men in dark suits, they're everywhere, these people. They breed. It's like luminous jackets. They're everywhere. Men in dark suits. Front men for a force that I'll get into, who are running the system on behalf of those that control the system, and not for the people, which is why the decisions are against the interests of the people. It's real simple once you know what's going on. And they come from certain interbreeding bloodlines. You know, this guy is one of them. Shows what interbreeding too closely can do for you, really. Old Georgie. Boy Georgie. And it just really is a confirmation of just how ludicrous this system's become and just how much control the people do not have lost. That a complete idiot can become president of the United States in the way that this man did. It says so much. You can see it down the back here at a news conference. He's got the wire, you know. Mr. President, could you answer a question? Okay, go ahead. Yeah? Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we. President of the United States, the so-called most powerful country in the world, and that man can become leader. And now the power of persuasion, a man who was spawned from the most corrupt political system in America, Chicago, has become the Messiah for the world in the minds of so many people. When the guy is just the political equivalent of a used car salesman come in here to sell an agenda with a smile on his face. And while we stand by and allow this to happen, our freedoms and freedom of speech is being taken away. Our ability to even interact with these people is being eradicated as we have the free speech zones and all this stuff. And an agenda to enslave humanity. In the next few years, in terms of its the direction it wants to go in terms of its full-scale control, unfolds all the time. And these people are fundamentally responsible. Major media destroy information. If we had a mainstream media that even vaguely associated itself with the true meaning of the word journalism, none of this would be possible. But the same people that control the politicians own the media. And so the media is not there, just like governments, to serve the interests and inform the people. It is there to tell the people what those who own the media want them to believe. Write what you're told. Thanks, nation builders. We couldn't control the people without you. And no, they couldn't. And I'll say this to journalists. said it years ago, and they laughed, and one or two of them are not laughing so much now. You and your children and grandchildren are going to have to live in the world that you're helping to bring in by just being, as one editor described journalism, just being intellectual prostitutes instead of real journalists investigating and telling real news. And then finally, religions destroy spirituality. Of course they do. Because what my father used to call bricks and mortar religion are there to sell and enslave people within a belief system, and also to create division between different belief systems called religions. So people are so focused on one belief and battling for their belief to have preeminence that they don't deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. Oh my God, I'm all that is, has been, and ever will be. Religions are not there to find spirituality, for want of a word. I'm not sure I like that word very much. They're there to stop us getting to spirituality, overwhelmingly, when you get to the top of them. So we have this crazy world, and it gets crazier. The idea is to keep us so focused on survival. It's like that mass mind control manual that came to light a few years ago called Silent Weapons for a Quiet War, how to manipulate the population. And one of the lines in it said, keep them busy, busy, busy back on the farm with the other animals. So the more you can keep us in a state of survival, more and more stress. Look, mate, you might be saying interesting things, but I live in the real world, mate. Boom. That's the idea, to keep us in that state of stress. And we're now bringing it to younger and younger people. Kids under tremendous stress to pass exams, to show how indoctrinated they are in the system. Oh, must pass your exams. Oh, my son got sorry, I've seen it on car stickers. My son got so-and-so, so-and-so. I'm very pleased for you. By the way, he got it, you didn't. This parental glory-seeking. Oh, go, you've got to pass your exams. You're going to be a banker. Your mum wants you to be a banker. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Whatever happened to life? How do you spell happy, teacher? What's all that about? Did we ever talk about that? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? You know, people, we have these measurements of success that are sold to us that we take on, and they're all about more. More and more and more. How many more people are this? How many more people are that? How many more people are this? How many more people have passed degrees? How many more people have got a mortgage? How many more people? And yet, it's the other way that tells the real story. How few people are unfulfilled. How few people are under stress. How few people are ill. How few people are homeless. How few people are terrified of the future. These are the measurements of a success of society, surely, not more and more and more. You know, we have an economic system which I call take, make, and throw away, where the whole thing of success, it's called economic growth, is how fast you can take from the earth, turn it into things, sell more things, throw away more things, and start again. The faster you do that, the more successful you are. And we call it the cutting edge of human society. It's turning the planet into a shite hole. And we have the cleverness up to a point, although if we went to wisdom, we would find that technologically we would advance by enormous strides. But we have the cleverness through mind at the moment to create some amazing technology. Things that could make the world a better place for everybody. But we use that technology to pepper bomb cities full of civilians. We are now such at the cutting edge of human evolution that we can kill more people than ever before. And we do. We're in a world where it seems okay for children to sign their names on bombs that then drop and kill other children. Like I say, we think the world is sane. Well, we people in this room don't, but so many people do, when it is utterly insane. And what keeps people from understanding this? The constant hypnotic trance that we put in. You are feeling sleepy. Tick-tock, tick-tock. You don't want to know about pepper bombing cities? Watch this. Shut up. Quick, honey. She's going for the car. Whoa. We live in a world of plenty, and yet people starve for the want of the basics. We have food galore in some parts of the world, which comes often from the parts of the world that go hungry, and we throw away more food than most people eat in many, many months. I've seen this in Ecuador. People living on rubbish tips, waiting for the vans to come from the Western hotels to pour the rubbish food, thrown away food on, and then they go and eat for the day from it. The world that we have allowed to happen. But don't look at that. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Look at this. Shut up. Hey, quick, honey. The Steelers are going to score. Cool, yeah, yeah. I've got nothing against that. I love sport. But if we are in a situation where that becomes the focus of our reality at the exclusion of everything else, then while we're looking here, hell is going on here to stitch us up in the way that we have been. Oh, shut up. What's on the telly, honey? And then we drop bombs on the most crowded piece of land on Gaza. We protect ourselves. That's what we're doing. We do it to protect ourselves, apparently. This is what we do. This is liberation. Yay, liberation. And it's been going on. This is Vietnam. In the 20th century, humans killed well in excess of 100 million other humans in wars and conflicts. And it's still going on. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Well, you don't want to see that. Hey, quick, honey. Paris Hilton's half naked in the back of a limousine. Come and look. It's really good. And that's the new religion. Instead of living life, hey, this is me, I'm going to live my life. Ooh, isn't that she got a nice dress on? There's show, isn't she, and stuff. Oh, look, she's going to marry so-and-so. Oh, they're being divorced, yeah. It's the new religion. The celebrity. The religion of celebrity. I'm just in the supermarket. Oh, yeah, I'm getting some beans. They're up there. They don't have to shop in a supermarket because they're different. And then we have a situation where we have a system called money, which is based on money that has never, does not, and will never exist. Steps back in amazement to say it again. I didn't quite catch that. We have become so divorced from the world that we live in that most people never ask the simple question, what is money? When you go into a bank and you ask for a loan, $50,000 or something, what does the bank do? It does nothing in terms of moving precious metal anywhere, printing money, anything. It just types into your account $50,000. And from that moment on, you start paying back interest and eventually the principal, if you're lucky, on the $50,000. Because the same people have controlled the politicians and the governments have controlled the banks, legislation's been passed which allows banks to lend at least 10 times, and my God, it's at least 10 times, what they have on deposit. So every time you put $1 in a bank, you're giving them the right legally to lend $10 dollars. And interestingly, when you, say, take out a loan for $50,000, that $50,000 has been given to your computer screen on the basis of someone else putting a fraction of that in the bank. And then you take that $50,000 and maybe you give someone $20,000 to buy something. They'll take that $20,000, which has already been created out of nothing, and they'll put it in another bank. Now the $20,000 from the original $50,000 gives this bank the right to lend 10 times the $20,000. And so it goes on. What a bank can create out of nothing and charge interest on to the population from $1 or $100 or whatever the figure is fantastic. And we don't ask questions. I've talked to economists, who are earning cuckoo land amounts of money on the telly and stuff. I say, what is money? How is it created? They can't tell you. They never thought about it. It's just there. It's governments in here. No. It's the DNA of this society which holds this society more than anything else in so many ways, on a physical level, in servitude. Money created out of nothing, called debt, credit, which we then spend the rest of our lives paying back. But don't look at that. Don't let them know that. Tick, tick, tick. Hey, quick, honey, it's the Jerry Springer show. This man's going to punch his girlfriend. Come and look, honey. These are all the diversions, constantly. And then, of course, these people will tell you all the news that those that own the media want you to believe is true. It's what news is. And the whole foundation of all of it is be afraid, be very afraid. The big bad monster is coming as soon as we've invented him. Keep people in fear. Keep people in states of stress. And crucially, this will have implications as we go through the day, keep them in a state of surviving. Because while they're doing that, they will be in a state of focus on survival rather than looking at the big picture of what's going on. And so we've reached a point now where we really are at this fork in the road. We can go one way or we can go another, but we have to make a choice between the two, and we have to make it now. One way will take us into a global fascist dictatorship, an Orwellian state, well within the next 10 years. When what we say, what we do, where we go, will be controlled, monitored, and imposed by a police state in every country. We're seeing it unfold by the day. The other choice is that we stop shaking in our shells or shaking in our boots. Stop keeping our heads down because we think it's easier that way. And we start to know thyself. We start to understand the full, extraordinary magnitude and genius that we really are when you sweep away, delete the programming that has put us in the state that humanity has become. And when you reach that level, you stop taking this nonsense seriously. And when you stop doing that, it stops being intimidating to you. We're told, American word you hear so often, we're told you must comply. Compliance, that's what it is. The police state, you must comply. You must not incite discord. You must comply. Well, I have this thing, I call it the non-comply dance, And that is when you start to beat to this different drum and you don't comply. You don't comply with your own enslavement. You don't comply with your own servitude. And we stop building and acquiescing to the building of our own prison. Comply! No. Do what we say? No. Your house is foreclosed. Leave. No. Hundreds of thousands of people in America, I was there for 2 months recently, hundreds of thousands of people every month are losing their homes. Now, hold on a second here. Let me just follow this round just a little bit. They're losing their homes because they've lost their jobs. They've lost their jobs because of what the banks have done. But now, because they've lost their jobs, because of what the banks have done, they can't pay their mortgage to the banks, and so the banks come along and take their home when the banks have caused the problem in the first place. And hundreds of thousands of people in America are leaving their foreclosed homes every month. Why? Stay there. Refuse to leave. Then say to the system, okay, deal with that, darlings. Hundreds of thousands of people every month. You've got to come and take them out of there. Well, we can't be able to go. Of course you haven't. It's only possible for this nonsense, this grotesque injustice to happen because people acquiesce. Oh, well, we better leave. Non-compliance. Ooh, I'm inciting discord. Good. If we really look in the mirror and see the true reflection of ourselves, this system will collapse. As Martin Luther King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. We are at that time of challenge and controversy. Where do we stand? Comply or non-compliance? Free your mind from the programming that holds us in little me. Free ourselves from the hypnotic trance we've been put in. It's a mad, 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 mad world, yes. But why? Because what has been kept from us crucially, above all else, is who we are, the nature of life, and the nature of the reality that we live in.